These guys are ridiculous. These guys are ridiculous.
Now, how about them damn Celtics?
And we are back with another edition of How About Them Celtics. Sam and I are here recording on Friday, February 9th, after the Celtics win over the Washington Wizards. Took down Washington 133 to 129 in a game that was probably far closer than most people expected. Slow first half, which is becoming a bit of a trend for the Celtics, was overcome by a strong third quarter, which a win is a win, I suppose, but we've got some stuff to talk about, some stuff to break down. Including some fun post-game shenanigans, which we can get to at the tail end of the episode. But yeah, a win is a win, but would have probably liked to see them win this a little bit more convincingly, the Celtics.
Yeah, getting sick of seeing them not play defense in the first half. This is now, what, 2-3 games in a row where they're just giving up a ton of points in the first half? I mean, they scored 71 the other day, and they were only up by 4 going into the break. Today they gave up 71, not to a good team, but to the 9-win Washington Wizards. I mean, I get it. It's before the All-Star break. They've been playing a while. It is a slog. But at the same time, it doesn't make you feel great when they can't stop anything. It doesn't matter who they're playing against. They're just the stops don't really come until it's like, okay, I guess we'll try now.
Yeah, it's especially frustrating because they can stop them because they did it in the third quarter. The Wizards scored 16 points in the third quarter. It was great. Fourth quarter was then again bad, but it does truly feel like the Celtics are just doing whatever they need to do to win, and that's it. Like the bare minimum. We're going to do what we need to do to win the game and nothing more. Which, again, is frustrating to watch. But like you said, like I guess that's just the nature of this type of season. But some of the stuff that was happening in the first half is like just not like what you want to see from a championship team at any point in the season. And again, this isn't me saying like they're not going to win a championship because they're playing bad in the first half in a game in February, right? Like obviously I know, and and everyone knows it's like it goes deeper than that. It's just frustrating when you see these bad habits. Like the transition defense, the Wizards had 18 fast break points in the first quarter, and the Celtics only turned the ball over twice. That means Celtics were just missing shots and not getting back. And right. I see and understand that a big part of that, and I truly believe this, is they were just missing open shots. Celtics missed a lot of open shots, and that directly led to the Wizards running. But at some point, after maybe 4 or 5 of the transition break points, maybe you adjust to it. Maybe you don't keep getting completely outrun in transition. So that was aggravating. Not fun to watch. The defense was bad. There was one play in second or third quarter, I can't remember, where Tatum thought he got fouled on a layup, and him, JB, and Kristaps just stood under the basket and let the Wizards just ran out in transition and got an open shot. So it was frustrating displays of effort from that perspective at times. And also I can't acknowledge that they missed a lot of shots they usually make, so that was frustrating too. They missed a lot of layups in this game, which I think led to the poor defense because they let it affect the defense, and the Wizards were able to take that and get out in transition. Like that's how bad teams score. Bad teams score in transition. Bad teams score off of your missed opportunities. That's exactly what happened.
With
there was also a level of, as much as you hate to hear it at this point, Wizards shot 43% from 3. Doesn't usually happen. So that was frustrating. But again, like,
why is it happening?
They got the win. I don't know.
They got a lot of good looks.
Joe acknowledged
it. Got a ton of good looks in this game.
They got in a rhythm. And Joe acknowledged that. He's like, yeah, when you let him see him go in, they get in a rhythm, and that's bad. So, I mean, not an excuse. It's just they got in a rhythm early, and so they were able to shoot better than they usually do.
Yeah, because everything was open.
I'm drinking water. Yes, correct.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's always like, oh, like this thing happened. But like they are in control of like these things. Last game they played good defense on Sadiq Bey, and we talked about, he got going early, and that was something Missoula pointed out. But like, yeah, the Wizards shot 43% from 3 because they just weren't guarding them. The Wizards don't score 71 first half points because it's magic. No, this team's ass, and they managed to get out and outscore the Celtics in the first half and do it while scoring at will. It wasn't because it to the Celtics' credit, they couldn't buy a basket and they still put up 63, 65
Something,
points.
yeah.
But I mean, come on. This is why you need to be able to play defense, because there are going to be halves where you cannot put the ball in the basket like we saw today. And if they just played a lick of defense against an ass team, they would have had a halftime lead. And we all know they could do it because they came out in the third quarter and did a great job. They scored Wizards 16 points in the entire quarter. Not a bad follow-up to allowing 71 points. So it's good they can get their head on straight, but it just sure is frustrating. I get it. It's February. What are you going to do, I guess? But got to tighten it up.
Yeah, and I will say, it does feel like the Celtics are, and this isn't, I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing, but it does feel like they can turn it on and off. They're like pick and choosing when they want to play at their highest level, which is, again, a luxury I suppose they can't afford at this time of year because it is a slog and they have a huge lead in the standings. And to their credit, like, we're talking about this as if they're on a 7-game losing streak. They've lost 2 games in their last, what is this? Their last 3, 5, 8, 2, they're 8-2 in their last 10 still now. Like, they're still playing fine, like, in terms of wins and losses. It just feels like they're doing the bare minimum to get there, which, again, I'm going to acknowledge it because as much as people don't want it to be a thing, you're naturally going to get exhausted. You're naturally going to get like, okay, we got a break coming up. Like, you're putting, like, that is a natural reaction to have. And the Celtics just have to do what they can to avoid it and get over that hump. Like, you look at some of these games they're playing against good teams like Dallas, Miami scored 110 apiece, which you say 110 is a lot of points. That's really not. That's a pretty average amount of points in the NBA. The Nuggets game was a low scoring game. They played solid defense, regardless of the fact that Murray and Jokic made every single shot. Like, they are holding teams to fine numbers, like New Orleans 112. You look back and you can see Minnesota was 120, but that was an OT game. That was around 100, 5-ish before OT. So, like, they're holding good teams to low numbers. Their defense is still good. It's just when you get into Atlanta's going to put up 117, which actually isn't a lot for Atlanta. Washington's going to put up 129. Indiana's going to put up 120. That's who they are, right? The Lakers game was just a bad game. That's an outlier. Not an outlier in terms of whatever, just like they fucking sucked. So it does just feel like they are picking and choosing when they decide to play defense. That said, and I asked Jalen about this after the game, like, this is 1,000,000% a game they lose last year, like, without a question. Like, this is the first year where they're actually winning these games. So if we want to, John Corrales was asking Joe a question. He goes, I'll ask you a question that makes you feel like you actually won the game. And I do think it's important to acknowledge that they did win the game, like, as much as it sucked to watch in the first half, which it did suck to watch. Like, they won this game. And they won it because they were able to dig in and play well for enough time where the rest of their subpar play didn't matter. Like, they spammed KP in the post, which is good. They locked in on defense in the third quarter, which is good. Jaylen Brown took 15 shots and I think 0 threes, 2 threes, maybe 1 3. Like, he was doing everything he could. Jayson Tatum, after taking a couple maybe not so great threes in the first half, only drove in the second half. He only just did what he needed to win. So it felt like they knew that they're like, all right, damn, like, we got to actually try. And they tried for enough time. They're like, okay, now we can win, which is, again, maybe not what you want to see, but the fact that they were able to do that shows, like, when they're on, which, take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, I was watching this game and I was like, the Celtics really managed to win a lot of games that they just don't play well. And like, you went back and looked at it, they're 8-2 in their last 10. And it feels like every time we do one of these, I just come on here upset. Except for maybe the Heat game. Like, they just killed the Heat. So it was like, oh, sick. But
Grizzlies too. Well, even that, the first half, it wasn't great, I guess. But yeah.
I didn't watch that one, so I couldn't get too mad.
Oh, yeah.
But sure. Like, I don't know. It's the Wizards. Just play better. It shouldn't have had to be a sweat. You shouldn't go into the half down at all. It's the Wizards. It was kind of annoying to see Jordan Poole play well, at least in the first quarter.
He was making some weird shots. He likes the Garden, I guess. That guy.
0 points the other day.
I will say Keith made a good point on Twitter. and I'm trying to find it. Yeah, he goes pre-break games against bad teams are tricky. Wizards have nothing to lose, so they're playing free and easy. Celtics talent should eventually win out, but the Wizards are making them work for it. And that was early in the game, and that's what it felt like. It felt like this is the Wizards team who is like, yeah, fuck it, like who cares anymore? Like just ball out. And Celtics are like, all right, let's just get there that we can have a break from like caring about everything. And that's kind of the time of year, and that's what you've seen for the past since the Denver. It's I want to pick a point, but I don't think it was like maybe the Indiana game, and since then you've seen a few of that. Like that Indiana game, they've lost 4 since then, which is still like I don't know. I don't want to do the math. Like 13 or 12-4 in their last 16, which is good. Like that's fine. It's just it feels they're not blowing teams out like they were earlier in the season. And for what it's worth, I do think they'll go back to maybe not blowing teams out because good teams lock in at the end of the year and teams, have nothing to lose at the end of the year. Like you're never going to simulate or rekindle that sort of like, all right, everyone's got something to fight for. Everyone's got something to prove at the start of the regular season. But I do think, and I said this last time, but we had to talk about one of these games. This team feels like a team, like I said, that can turn it on when they need to. And it just feels like right now they feel like they don't need to, and they will need to in the playoffs. And so I feel like they'll do that when the time comes.
The NFL season is wrapping up, and there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Now, the app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
I hope so. I mean, just off the top, I mean, they didn't show up for the Lakers game, lost the Nuggets at home, got killed by the Bucks at one time. I'm just trying to think of games where it was a bright lights type deal and they didn't show up. Like the Clippers game, they weren't great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this can happen against teams that aren't the Wizards. It's not foolproof.
Yeah, it happens. It does. I mean, they said it after the game. Joe was talking about it. He's like, yeah, it happens. It's happened in the past and it's going to happen again. Like the problem isn't avoiding that it's going to happen. Like this happens. And I've said this a million times. I said in the article, like this shit happens to every team in the league. Every team. Doesn't matter how good or bad. Happens to every team in the league. And he made the point of it matters how we respond to it. That's what I care about more, right? Like I don't think he means I don't care that we, played poorly against the Wizards or played bad. Like obviously he cares, but he cares more about how they respond to it. And to their credit, they've lost twice in a row. Once this year? Like they've lost 2 games in a row one singular time this season, which is pretty damn good. Like you can nitpick their losses, but like the only back-to-back losses they had were Minnesota in OT and then Philly early in the season. Since then, they've lost, bounced back with the win. Lost, bounced back with the win every single time. So to their credit, and to Joe's credit, he's like, I care more about the response. Well, shit, they've responded pretty damn well. And again, we're talking about this game like they lost because it felt like they did because it's the Wizards, but a win is a win. Like they still got to win in a number in the win column, 40 on the season. So,
yeah, I mean, good second half response. After not playing defense, they played a ton of defense and put this game to bed pretty well. I thought this, on a more positive standpoint, was a good Tatum game. He did a great job of showing up in the clutch moments throughout the game. And he did that by just putting his head down, being aggressive. He got to the basket a couple times very loudly. His decision-making just felt like it was much better today. I haven't looked at the box just yet. 3 of 10 from 3. It didn't feel like that today.
It's because all of them in the first half. Yeah. Or most of them were in the first half. Well, he was 2 of 8 from 3 in the first half, and then he only took 1 of 2 in the second half. So like he locked in, he stopped taking the threes, and in the second half, Tatum was 6 of 8 from the floor, and including 1 of 2 from 3. So and 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Like he locked in the second half, mostly in the third quarter. Yeah. Kristaps also a big game. I mean, this was cookies for him, right? Like 9 of 18, 2 of 4, 14 of 14 from the free throw line. That might be the most free throws a Celtic has shot in this season in a game.
I wonder when the last time somebody shot that many free
Tatum
throws
had
in general.
14 earlier player in a game this season. I think Tatum had 14 at one point. Tatum had 15 made against the Mavs. This was second most made in the game this season. It was Kristaps tonight. So credit to him. Did his job. Did what he needed to do. Yeah. Kristaps good. Jalen also good. Didn't end up scoring a ton, but he did a lot of other stuff on the floor. Credit to him. Drew Holiday, I thought, had a really good game too. Played some solid defense. Was making some nice shots inside. Rare bad Derek White game. Don't think he was super effective. He had his 6 assists and 3 steals.
I don't even think it was bad.
He wasn't bad,
he just was shape shifting today. That's all. They didn't need him to do much. Didn't force anything. He shot a tick below 50%. I mean, 33% is a little different than 50%, but when it's one shot being the difference, it's not the worst thing ever. The threes didn't fall, but he still had 3 steals and a block. Like, pretty decent defensive game from him.
He was fine. The shooting just wasn't there. Shooting wasn't there for anybody. No one shot particularly well in this game, and those are the games you feel like the Celtics struggle, which makes sense.
Efficient. Him and Jalen both very efficient today.
Also worth noting, they didn't make their threes, and on top of that, Bobby Manning and I were talking. We don't have the exact numbers, but the Celtics shot around 23 of 37 around the rim, so they did miss a lot of shots they probably should have made on the inside, which is.
No, I'm not like trying to pick holes in your argument. I'm just curious, like, why they can't make shots around the rim. I mean, yes, defense is key in when you get in the paint, but I think probably should have a higher percentage make rate.
I don't think that's a consistent thing. I think they shoot like probably average. I don't know the number, but it just when it does happen, it's so much more prominent and noticeable because it probably leads to games that are tighter than they should be because you're fucking missing layups. Do you know what I'm saying? So I just think it's probably like more noticeable.
But I feel like we have these chats like a fair amount because everybody loves to pick out on the threes, right? Be like, shoot too many threes. And then there's a game like this, and Joe specifically will always be like, well, look at all these layups we missed. You want us to take layups, and we missed them.
Celtics are shooting 3rd best in the league, less than 5 feet. So I think it's just it's so prominent because they are so good at it. It's like what Joe says. He's like, when we lose, more people care because we win so much that it doesn't happen often. So
shouldn't happen often.
That's probably a big part of it.
team is so deep, stacked. All of the bench guys,
and it hasn't happened often.
Display
for what it's worth. Yeah, they were all fine. Hauser. They just didn't shoot particularly well. Yeah, Hauser didn't shoot particularly well. Pritchard made super
was
cool
great.
Shot. Made a couple super cool shots, but one didn't count, unfortunately.
I thought he was really good. He like picked his spots. He was good with the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He had a nice and one on a patient
big 4th quarter
fake step through. Like I love this game from Pritchard. This was a big, hey, Jaden Springer, buddy. These are still my minutes game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. All right, we can wrap with Spider-Man. Because Joe in his post-game press conference said the Celtics are like Spider-Man because, he's like, how there's, Into the Spider-Verse, there's like 20 different Spider-Man. That's this team. He said he basically went over like anybody can do anything on any night. We got to shapeshift. We got to do whatever the defense calls for. Success looks different. Quote, success looks different from night to night. And I immediately thought of you because, I mean, fucking obviously it's Spider-Man. So Joe is a big Spider-Man fan.
Yeah, that's what everybody else was saying. I guess afterwards they were all like, "Yeah, that sounds like Joe." I mean, cool analogy. I think they do truly have a lot of talented players on this team. So for him to like point that out makes sense. Like we just talked about Pritchard. Like I think Pritchard's very talented. I think he does a lot of things great on offense. I trust him to have the ball in his hands to create shots. Like. You can't say that for a lot of guards in this league, especially backup ones. The fact that guy is your 8th man, pretty impressive. You should absolutely have trust in the entire anybody that's on the floor for this team. You can trust. They take the power they have and follow it up with some nice responsibility. How about that?
Tatum also said we have to have some Spider-Man instincts on defense, be all over the place. That was unprompted, by the way. Tatum said Spider-Man unprompted. That wasn't Joe said it. That was him just going off the dome.
You don't think he knew?
No, they're fucking with us. They're absolutely fucking. This has happened like three press conferences in a row. Like this isn't a one-off thing. They've like said the same phrases like 3 or 4 press conferences in a row. They're playing a fucking game. They're messing with us.
Yeah.
Which is funny. But Joe also apparently told some jokes in the 3rd quarter. He said he thought they were funny. He said he'd lighten the mood because they wanted to get back to playing a game and not focusing on the score, just competing at a high level, which it worked. And then Jalen said, I didn't think it was funny because we were losing. And Tatum said, "No, I told a joke and Joe told a joke. His wasn't that funny, but it worked, I guess." So there's good vibes on this team, regardless of the situation. I think they understand that, like, all right, we'll play harder. But anyways, any final thoughts before we get out of here? Oh,
yeah,
yes.
one thing that came and went through my head in the first half and kind of before the game too. After these trades happened, I was like, I really hope they don't come out and suck on Friday, because then you could have started to be like, well, what if they're upset? What if they're mad that Lamar Stevens and Banton kind of perished for nothing? I mean, Tatum came out and spoke on Stevens, and he didn't seem thrilled
today. Yeah, they were upset. I mean, they're teammates. These people that they've known for months now and form relationships with, they're just gone. Like Jalen said, yeah, like that's the part of the business that sucks, but it just is what it is. And so I think they understand that. It's tough. It's tough to lose guys you've become friends with overnight.
Of course. Yeah. But I mean, I'm excited to see the new guys play too.
Me too. Very excited if they ever play, because people on Twitter are very mad that they're both hurt already, which is funny. Anyways, any final thoughts? Double down, second time?
No.
All right. We'll get out of here then. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate it. Let us know what you thought of the game. I can't imagine you're going to be very pleased in the comments, but that's okay. Subscribe to How About Them Celtics. We appreciate it. Make sure to leave us 5 stars, all that good stuff on the streaming platforms. And yeah, I'll let Sam wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening or watching. If you're watching, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the pods coming at you Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, talking C's, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, game recaps on the days that there are no pods. You can also find trade rumor breakdowns, rest in peace, Rip Bozo trade rumor breakdowns, film breakdowns, and 30 minutes before each game we're live. So come hang out for those. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple. Hit the follow button. You'll get the audio versions of the pods and game recaps right to your inbox. You don't want to miss any of it. You can email us, hbtcpod@gmail.com. We go through your emails each and every pod, and we love to hear from you. So email us. You can find us on socials at How About Them C's, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook is just the name of the podcast. You can find our live streams there and on YouTube and also on Twitter. Jack's Twitter is at Jack's Money NBA. Mine's at Samuel France NBA. It's it for us.
Taco. Come on. Taco.